Total solar eclipse 2024, April 8th, here in Bettsville, Ohio, in Seneca County.
The moment we've been waiting for is almost here. Of course, I'm talking about the total solar eclipse taking place on April 8th. First and foremost, we're going to go over where totality is. If you're in it, you likely know it already, but I'm going to show you the percent of the eclipse that the entire country is going to see. So everybody's involved, no matter where you're tuning in from. Then, I want to break down some things that you may not know happen during a total solar eclipse. I think these are really, really cool. It's something to look for in addition to the main event, that diamond ring effect, the sun's atmosphere, the corona. So stick around for that. I think it's really, really cool. Then if you are in totality, this is going to be awesome to show. It's going to be a 3D path perspective, so you know the exact time that it is going to come through your city or your town or where you're traveling to watch this super rare event. At the end of the video, if you're finding it hard to come across those approved solar eclipse glasses, again, you cannot look at this event with the unaided eye. You need to have that approved protection. It's very, very dangerous to do so without it. We're going to talk about how to make your very own viewer at home. Before we break down that DIY viewer, while everybody is looking up, I'm going to give you a reason to look down during the eclipse. Something really, really cool happens. So we are going to talk about that later on in the video. Before we get into it, if you want to stay updated on all things weather and sometimes astronomy, hit that subscribe button for me, and we are going to get into it. If you find this content helpful, please give it a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. Small ask, but it really does help us out a lot. Post in the comments. Are you traveling? Are you in totality? Would love to know where you're tuning in from. All right, so first things first. There's a lot to break down in this video. We're going to talk about how the eclipse happens and all that jazz as well coming up through this video. Path of totality, you'll likely know it if you're there, from about Montreal into northern Vermont, into Erie, Pennsylvania, just outside of Columbus, Ohio, into southern Indiana, just south of St. Louis, through Carbondale. Shout out, you guys got it in 2017 as well. Really cool stuff. Through central Arkansas, the big cities of Texas, outside of Houston, of course, Houston down here. We have Dallas, into San Antonio, Austin, and then coming out of the resort towns, and then right on through Mexico. That is where you get that diamond ring effect. You get to see the corona. You get the darkness to fall, and you get some of that other cool stuff to happen. Now, if you're in Florida, you get about 60%. Everybody else is going to see kind of that Pac-Man, I like to call it, where the moon is taking a bite out of the sun. So you need to keep the eclipse glasses on, or use that special DIY viewer that I'm going to show you how to make toward the end of the video. You need to keep all that stuff around and on for the entire time. The only time you can remove those glasses is if you are in the path of totality during the total part of that solar eclipse. If you're watching from Oregon, again, you're going to get a little bit of it. Not as much as what we saw for the annular, of course, but it's going to be that Pac-Man look, that partial solar eclipse. Again, 40% of the sun is going to be eclipsed, 60% closer towards us in Utah, and then about 80% if you are watching from southeast Colorado into Kansas, through parts of Minnesota as well, southeast Minnesota and northern Iowa. So still, even if you're not in totality, some cool stuff to look for, and I'm going to talk about that toward the end of the video. All right, so things to look for into the total solar eclipse, and this is that thing that you have to look for. I think this is one of the coolest parts of it, in addition to the corona, toward the diamond ring effect. When it starts to go dark, and especially when it goes dark in totality, you're going to see the brightest planets in the sky. I think that's really awesome in the middle part of your afternoon, and I'm going to show you where to look for that coming up in just 1 second. So you're looking for the bright planets and some of the brightest stars in the sky too. That's really awesome. Of course, the sun's corona. When the sun, or when the moon is right over the sun, blocking it out, you're going to see the wispy white coming around the sun. That is the sun's atmosphere, the sun's corona. And then right as the eclipse is ending, totality I should say, right when totality is ending, you're going to get that beam of light to shine right on through the one corner. And that is going to be that diamond ring. It looks like a diamond engagement ring. So really, really cool effect. But again, that must-see thing, I think, in my opinion, in addition to those, it's going to be the planets. This eclipse is going to be taking place in the southern sky, of course. This is not to scale. The eclipse dead center in the sky. So when this is happening, there's going to be a lot to look for, of course. Jupiter is going to be hanging out here northwest of the actual eclipse, where the moon is right over the sun. Venus is going to be hanging out into the southeast corner of where the eclipse is happening. Saturn, a little bit further to the south and east, might be a little bit harder to see because it's a little fainter. And then Mars might be a little bit harder to see still. You might have to wait till you're completely in totality to see that. But Mars is going to be the little red dot just to the south and east, just to the bottom there, to the right of Saturn. So some really, really cool stuff to pay attention to. And there's also going to be some of the brightest stars out in the sky as skies almost go completely dark here, as the sun is completely, at least from our perspective, right over the sun. Here's what's actually happening, and then we're going to get into the 3D path, and then we're going to get into my reason of why you should look down for a time while everybody else is looking up. So basically, what we have happening here is the moon moving in between the Earth and the sun. And from our perspective, of course, the moon is not even close to being the size of the sun, but it's positioned just perfectly where it's going to block out the sun. That's what we see there. And then the moon's shadow is actually cast right onto the Earth. And it's going to be that little sliver of totality that main event, that path there of totality right on through. So we're going to start this from the United States at 1:27 in the afternoon. This is the 3D path of totality now on April 8th. If you're in it, this is going to be a really cool perspective on when you need to make sure that you're ready to go in. Get out there early. I'm sure every one of these cities are going to have a ton of people coming to visit. There is 1:27 Central Time into the afternoon. This is starting to come back into the United States now. So places like San Antonio, Austin, heads up. We're going to roll this forward here. We're going across the entire country into parts of Canada, so this might take a minute, so bear with me. Stick around. I want to be sure everybody's included. There's 1:33 in the afternoon over San Antonio on the north end of town. So if you're on the south end of town, you might need to do just a little bit of traveling. Austin, we're going to be up, though, in totality. There's 1:36 into the afternoon.
Again, Central Time.
Same for us in Fort Worth. This is going to be 1:41 now. In the afternoon, this is all local time. Texarkana, we're closer to 1:45. This is pausing this at 1:48. Fort Smith, Arkansas, we are not in totality, but the south side is. You don't have to go far to get in there. Hot Springs, Little Rock, Conway, what's going on, guys? We are in totality. This is at 1:53 in the afternoon. Memphis, we are not in totality. Don't have to go far, though. I had to take a trip up to Jonesboro. We're going to be in totality at about 1:56 in the afternoon. Now, getting into Paducah, we're going to see that as well. We're in totality. Terre Haute, about 3:05. We're going to be in that time frame, just after 3 o'clock. Bloomington into Indianapolis, the bigger cities of Indiana, we're going to be in totality at about 3:07. Muncie, we're up just after that. Columbus, Ohio, north side of town, this is just skirting us. You're going to be in it. South side, you might need to just take a little drive on the north side of town, and you'll be able to be in totality. Into Rush Creek, Findlay, Ohio, Crane, Ohio, Mansfield.
In Eastern Time now.
After 3:11 into the afternoon. Now, we're pushing into 3:15. We're back in
Eastern Time.
Again, this is all local. Akron, Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio, Ashtabula. We are in totality at 3:15. Heads up, Erie, Pennsylvania, Buffalo, New York. We are in totality just after 3:15. We're pausing this at 3:18. Rochester, Syracuse, we're coming up. Syracuse at 3:23. This continues for us into Watertown as well. We are right smack dab in the middle of totality. Going to be a great eclipse for us, weather permitting anyway. Keeping our fingers crossed that everybody gets it. Middlebury, Vermont, shout out. Same for us in Burlington, Plattsburgh, New York, into North Elba. We are in totality at 3:27 in the afternoon. Montreal, we are in it as well at that time. All right, we're up in Maine, into Lincoln, into Pine Knoll, Presque Isle, 3:32, and then Presque Isle just after that, we get in there, and then this works its way into New Brunswick at about 4:35 AST. Again, this is all local time now, so I wanted to give you that perspective. All right, so I mentioned at the start of the video that while everybody is looking up, I'm going to give you a reason to look down. And here it is. And this also applies to everybody in the partial eclipse. Of course, the moon is blocking the sun, so the skies are going to gradually get darker. Something also cool to watch is that the temperature is actually going to drop a few degrees. When the moon is blocking the sun, of course, we don't get as much solar heating, so the temperature is going to drop a little bit in the middle of the afternoon. It's cool if you have a thermometer to kind of watch that happen, something to look forward to. And then this is the coolest part. if you're in the partial area or something to watch again while you're waiting for totality to happen, the leaves on the trees actually act as kind of a solar filter, as a pinhole camera, and it casts the shadow of the eclipse on the ground. So if you're standing near a tree, look onto the sidewalk, onto the street, onto the ground, you're going to see crescents, the eclipse, all over the place, projected on the ground. I think it is really, really cool. I think that's one of the coolest parts of the eclipse, especially if you don't get to see the main event where you get totality and you get all the other fun stuff to come with it. It's something to look for, and that's a little bit extra fun there if you're in the partial side. Remember, it's in this part too that you need to keep the glasses on at all time. You need to make sure those glasses are approved as well. Look for the little ISO mark, again, on your glasses, even if that is there. People can still counterfeit that. If you click this QR code on the screen right here, this is going to take you to a website. It's called clickorlando.com. We're based out of Orlando here. And there's going to be a link embedded in the kind of how to see this. And it's going to take you to a spot where there's going to be approved glasses if you need to order them. I want everybody to say if there's a lot of bad people out there that are trying to take advantage of this really awesome eclipse and take advantage of the wonder here, that's going to give you a place where there's a bunch of different sites. Again, I'm not sponsored by these. They're just entities and websites. I'm not getting any money for it. I just want you to go there, and there's a bunch of different ones you can pick. And again, I'm going to have that link in the description as well. I also have a QR code on the screen that you can scan that. All right, now we're going to go outside, and I'm going to show you how to make one of those DIY viewers if you can't find those glasses, or if you just want to hang out at home, do something fun with the kids. That's coming up right now. First and foremost, before we get into this video, never, ever, ever observe the sun with the unaided eye. You need either approved solar glasses or a device like I'm about to show you. In order to make this device, just a few common household items. We're looking for scissors, some tape, a little glue stick will work just fine as well, aluminum foil, a piece of computer paper, and of course, a box. So the box is the main part of this device. This is the bigger box here, but later on in this video I'll show you a more handheld version as well, so stick around for the video for that. Also, if you find this content helpful, hit that subscribe button for me, give it a thumbs up as well. Alright, so for the sake of time, I've already cut 2 holes. This is what you need to do. Cut 2 holes into the long end of the box. This is going to be so that you can look through one of them and then let the sunlight, so you can see the eclipse, come through the other. The next thing you need to do, take a piece of aluminum foil, and then we are going to tape it over one end of the box, or one end of that open mark right there. So we're going to use this one here. This is where the sunlight is going to come through. Get real close on. You just need a little bit of tape, just like that. We're going to tape all ends of this so that the wind doesn't blow it off. All sides, just like that. Alright, now taking either a small nail or a pencil, we're just going to poke a teeny tiny hole right on through. Just like that. And that is where the sun is going to come through. Believe it or not, that is the device, that is the part there that is critical for this. This is where your eye goes, just like that. Alright, so now on the inside of the box, this is also important. You're going to open it back up, any box will do, and you're going to take that computer paper, just like this, a nice little white piece of computer paper. This is going to be your projector screen. We're going to tape it before we get it in there, just like that, and then tape it right to the back of the box. And this is what you're actually going to see the eclipse on. The sunlight is going to come right through that little hole. It's going to be projected on our white paper in the back, just like that. And that is where you're going to see the eclipse. Make sure you have enough glue or tape on it. I obviously did not put enough on to keep it there. Now this is really, really important. You're not looking directly up at the sun like this. You are keeping the sun to the back at all times. What you're wanting to do is, this little hole right here is going to be over your shoulder. The sun is going to be to your back over the shoulder. Again, you're never looking at that sun. And then you're going to look right on through the hole just like that you cut for your eye, and then you will see the solar eclipse displayed on that white piece of computer paper.
In a moment, all I want to have you pay attention to is the very bottom of the screen in the area which now says, watch this. You're going to see the approximate times for Bettsville and Seneca County, Ohio, of the start of the eclipse, the totality of the eclipse, and the end of the eclipse. So that's all we're hoping to show right here. Hang on just a moment. There we go. Right above the WTOL in purple, over to the left, you'll see eclipse begins at 1:56 p.m. approximately. In the center there, as it says, maximum eclipse at 3:13 in the afternoon, Eastern time. That's in the Toledo, Ohio, Northwest Ohio, Bettsville and Seneca, Ohio, will be totality at about 3:13. So you're going to be wanting to be ready a little before 3 o'clock, and about 3:13 is totality, and the complete darkness coming back to light will finish at about 4:26, call it 4:30 p.m., Monday, April 8th.
Very interesting indeed, and remember, that moment of totality only lasts a few minutes in your location. Well, as you've heard over the past 30 minutes, this total solar eclipse is a big deal. People from all across the globe are flocking to Northwest Ohio for a glimpse of what to see. Ryan Lachine shows us how local businesses are getting ready.
We've trimmed out that period, that part of the clip, because you've seen and heard about all the businesses and schools and such are repairing. So let's get back to action here.
Well, if you're looking to get out and enjoy the view, all while taking in some of the best outdoor areas Northwest Ohio has to offer, Metro Parks Toledo could be a good spot. Meteorologist Kaylee Bowers takes us there.
We have to come meet experts here at the Metro Parks. Amanda's joined me. Tell me.
And we're going to trim out this portion. This portion here is definitely the most important. Have yourself and your friends, and especially your family and your children, wear well of this portion.
Well, the total solar eclipse is going to go down as one of the most memorable experiences in Northwest Ohio for years to come. But looking directly at the sun, even during an eclipse, can do some serious damage to your eyes. Meteorologist Matt Willoughby breaks down what doctors recommend when it comes to proper eye protection.
A good pair of glasses here that should work.
Solar eclipse glasses are essential for viewing this year's once-in-a-lifetime event. While it's a fantastic opportunity to observe one of the most dramatic astronomical events you can witness from Earth, it's important that one does so safely.
The reason it's real important to go to an accredited site and is that unfortunately unscrupulous vendors have been selling eclipse glasses or labeled as eclipse glasses with ISO labeling that have not been certified or vetted.
The proper glasses used during an eclipse should appear to be a pitch black while wearing them. If you see through them, they may be a faulty pair.
Glasses we would use to view an eclipse are several thousand times darker or stronger than your regular sunglasses. So you don't want to wear regular sunglasses, or even several pairs of regular sunglasses aren't going to do what an ISO certified eclipse glasses or viewer will do.
Getting the best look at the solar eclipse is a dream for many across the country, so sticking with the preferred pair is the safest choice.
You also don't want to look at an eclipse or view an eclipse through a lens, like a binocular or a camera with eclipse glasses even on. To do that, photographers use special filters on the outside of the lens when they're photographing or viewing through binoculars or cameras or things like that.
Our next step was testing to see if any glasses were ISO certified and to see if any weren't to use.
Look specifically at the filters, so you want to make sure that there's no space between the filter and the side or the frame itself. You want to make sure there's no scratches and no perforations. And then when you put them on, you should have a comfortable view of the sun and what you're looking at. If it feels bright, if it looks blurry or uncomfortable, stop viewing and don't use those glasses. Get another pair.
Well, from the end of the world to a sign from the gods, eclipses have a history of sparking conversations, rumors, and myths.
At this point, this can be the end of our information to you about the total solar eclipse. The balance of this, if you choose to watch it, is just some additional information, but not necessarily important information. Good viewing! You may already understand that there are different types of eclipses. Here's some information on any total solar eclipse that has been experienced in Ohio, specifically in our area and for Ohio.
So we did see that one in 2017.
But that wasn't here in Ohio.
Yep, got the graphic for you right here. Actually, so that last time we did see that last eclipse was in 1806 in Ohio.
In Ohio, yes.
Yes. And the next one will be in 2099. So you may have to do a little bit of time traveling as well. So we do have a little bit some more dates as well. Or at least more cities that will be in that totality in time. You know, we got 2 minutes and 6 seconds for Mommy. This is throughout the Toledo Metro. And some of those times, most areas throughout the Toledo Metro will see anywhere.
And these are just some additional cities in Northwest Ohio with times. And as I just mentioned a few seconds ago, the balance of this clip is not necessarily important or need to know information, but kind of intriguing information.
Cities that we just showed, the max one being Forest, Ohio, Findlay at 3 minutes and 44 seconds.
Very interesting there. Well, throughout history, there have been many explanations, superstitions, all about eclipses. Meteorologist John Birchfield takes a look back in time.
We're going to talk a little bit more about the history as opposed to the science, how different cultures explain the eclipse, in particular delving into the history, the mythology, and the folklore surrounding the total solar eclipse, and sort of break down how each culture appropriated the eclipse and tried to explain the science before the scientific understanding was really developed and we really reached that modern level of science. So let's break down some of the information here on the history and the mythology surrounding the total solar eclipse, and history buffs out there may find some of this information very, very interesting. Now, throughout human history, the prediction of eclipses has been something that is very common, and in fact, many ancient societies, even BC era, were still doing a pretty good job of predicting the eclipse. Essentially, they observed that it occurred in regular intervals, and they divided the amount of time between eclipses and extrapolated that information to say, hey, if it happened this long ago, here's what we can expect in the future. So prediction was actually fairly accurate given the lack of scientific understanding, but the cause is something that was still unknown and remained unknown until relatively modern history. Now, each society had a very different explanation for the cause of the eclipse, so let's delve into some of the first recorded observation of the total solar eclipse, dating well back before Christ, 2159 BC, all the way to 1948 BC. Those were some of the earliest references in mythology. In particular, Chinese astronomers mentioned the total solar eclipse well into the BC era. They did attempt to predict the eclipse with some degree of accuracy, but of course, some of those primitive, very early eclipse predictions, not quite as accurate as they became over the years. Now, starting in 772 BC, the Chinese cultures actually recorded the eclipses in writing on animal bone, and some of those still survive today, so you can actually look back at those records and see some of the observations that were occurring at that time. Now, predicting the eclipse was a goal of many early cultures, including the Babylonians, which also predicted the eclipse as early as 750 BC. So the Chinese were first, but the Babylonians had a little bit more success in predicting the eclipse, and they actually used a formula, and that was based on the observations of when those eclipses occurred. Essentially what they did is they added 18 years and 11 3/4 days, and they determined, hey, that is when the next total solar eclipse is going to occur. occur. And generally speaking, that formula actually fared pretty well. Now, of course, it took many generations of observations, with these eclipses being spaced out by so many years. So a lot of this was written history that was passed on from generation to generation of scientists, and then they employed that formula to extrapolate and predict to the future. Now, on the other side of the ocean, there were predictions being made as well. In Mexico and Central America, the Mayans were among the first to mention the total solar eclipse, and not only did they mention it, but they recorded it in books. Only around 4 of those have survived the test of time, and that is because of Spanish conquistadors that burned many of those books due to the superstitious connotations with the eclipse. Not only did the Mayans observe the eclipse, but they also created a number of different theories, many of which involved superstition and religion surrounding why the eclipse was occurring.
Meteorologist John Birchfield diving deep into that one. I certainly hope you learned something new.
Speaking of recording, this is pretty close to the time for total solar eclipse, but you've got until April 12th at roughly midnight, the following Friday, April 12th, to create yourself an account and do your own recording for future generations. Yes, literally, generations. Your children, grandchildren, and as I just said, generations. Create your account with pictureyourselfremembered.com. Create an account and upload your experiences, still shots, photographs, handwritten letters, video clips, and more.
Meteorologist John Birchfield diving deep into that one. I certainly hope you learned something new. Well, experiencing the total solar eclipse is something you're going to remember, but you may want to snap a photo of it so you can cherish the moment. But before you do that, meteorologist Kaylee Bowers shows us some important things to know so you don't ruin your phone or your camera.
Taking those pictures on your camera, very important. So of course we came to the experts here at Cone Camera. With me we have Preston. Preston, thanks for having us, and just talk a little bit about like having to protect your camera and what are some things you need to do.
Yeah, so it's really important to protect your camera during the eclipse because there's a lot of light coming from the sun and it could really damage your camera. For the sake of example, I did this the other day where we had a roll of film and this is what happened after 5 seconds of exposure to the sun. Very quick. Imagine this is your camera. Not good. We don't want that to happen. So it's really important that you use specifically solar filters. These filters are designed specifically for photographing the sun, and they are different than neutral density filters that most photographers are used to, in that these are about twice as dark. They're extremely dark, and not only do they filter out a lot of light, but they're also filtering out UV light, and in some cases ultraviolet light too. This is probably the most important step you can take when you're protecting your camera, and also you want to protect your eyes as well with the fancy glasses. So I'm going to be using this and these filters when I'm photographing the eclipse.
Well, keep in mind, you probably won't get a photo that will match anything like the professionals from NASA, so you may just want to take the moment and enjoy it and maybe take a few selfies and capture the faces around instead of looking directly up at that.
In wrapping up, you may think, hey, I've seen eclipses before. Well, you want to know the difference between some sorts of eclipses and why this eclipse, April 8th, 2024 in Northwest Ohio, won't be seen again until 2099.
Yes, eye protection is one of the most paramount things that you need to be prepared for on April 8th. So if you've lived in Northwest Ohio or Southeast Michigan your whole life, you've experienced an eclipse before, but never one like this. Meteorologist Ryan Weekman shows us why it will be unlike anything that we've ever seen here at home before.
For 6 minutes and 14 seconds today, Wasion was the center of the galaxy. Eclipse chasers came here from California, Mansfield, Cleveland, and as far away as New Mexico.
Yep, just taking a little bite out of the sun around that. WTOL 11 was there on May 10th, 1994, when an annular eclipse moved directly across the country. The peak was in our backyard, with Wasion hosting scientists and astronomy buffs from across the country to record the historic event. Other partial eclipse passings happened in 1984, 79, 70, but were far less less significant locally than the 1994 annular eclipse.
Well worth it, well worth it. Yeah, everybody here I think enjoyed it and had a lot of fun.
At its darkest in Toledo, the sun was 89% blocked by the moon. The shadow passed early in the afternoon, and air temperature readings dropped by several degrees. Some even reported a noticeable chill feeling in the air. Do you think you remember the 94 eclipse? Well, if your memory's a bit foggy, keep this in mind. There were no other eclipse events that happened in our area between 1994 and the most recent partial eclipse in 2017. April 8th is the date to keep in mind this time around. For those of you who remember the 2017 or 1994 eclipse, this is going to be different. Totally different. The 1994 annular eclipse differs from April's total eclipse in that although the moon does go directly in front of the sun, it's too far away to cover up the entire surface of the sun. The eclipse this time around will be complete darkness. The moon will block out 100% of the sunlight. How about we give you more perspective? This April, to get the same 89% effect that was experienced back in 1994, you would need to move far away from the path of totality, which passes locally, and you can see on the red line here. In fact, you'd have to move all the way to Milwaukee, a 230-mile jump. This is truly a once-in-a-lifetime event and something you've never seen before or will see again around here. Reporting in studio, I'm meteorologist Ryan Weekman.
Thanks for watching, and remember, set up your account on pictureyourselfremembered.com.
We certainly hope over the past 60 minutes we have gotten your excitement to a whole new level, and also we've taught you a few things about what to expect with the upcoming total solar eclipse that is going to be occurring coming up here very soon on April 8th. Be sure you have the proper eye protection ready to go, and if you're seeking more information, you can always visit WTOL.com/solar eclipse. You can check out my WTOL 11 YouTube page, a full library of information that is going to get you prepared for this once-in-a-lifetime event. We are so proud of what we've been able to provide so far, and we encourage you to tune in to WTOL 11 all day on April 8th. Our coverage will continue for the whole staff here at WTOL 11 in meteorologist
Enjoy.